welcome you to this committee, and you're up.
Thank you. I wanted to come by this subcommittee because I know we have a lot of interest there, and of course, Mr. Reid there is as familiar as anyone with the LRA and what's going on. Unfortunately, there's a misunderstanding when we first put the language in, and a lot of people thought that it was something where we were taking on another Libya or that kind of situation. And I think it's very important for all of us on the committee, as well as you folks, to make sure people understand. It was specifically structured so that it would not be combat activity, and it is the type of thing is we've talked about. I've been involved with this for 15 years. And I guess the first question I would ask is, isn't it reasonable for people to classify this it only started out in northern Uganda. That's where it was when I first ran into it. Then, of course, more recently, meeting with the new country of South Sudan, then all the way down through the CAR, and even touching on Rwanda and eastern Congo. That it's spread to the point where it could be considered to be a terrorist organization by the United States. And I would say, if you would agree, that it would fall into that category.
With the LRA, Senator?
Yeah, the LRA,
As I'm sure you do know, Senator, for those that do not, Joseph Kony himself has been present on a terrorist exclusion list for some time in our government. And we use that in part as a basis for some of our resourcing for the LRA mission. The organization itself certainly operates with the tactic of terrorism from I guess a bit of an academic perspective. Whether what they seek to accomplish with that could be debated. But we certainly, in the context of approaching them as an adversary, and our advice and assistance to the Ugandan People's Defense Forces and others, is exactly the approach that we have applied to terrorist organizations. And that is, they have to make a comprehensive effort not only to go after senior leaders, they have to understand the supporting networks that allow them to operate, and they have to focus on the local populations to prevent, when they do clearing operations, to prevent that group from coming back in there. So from all those points of view, and in my business in the counterterrorism world, they certainly should be treated in that fashion as sort of a defeat and countering strategy.
Yeah, and I've often looked at what we're trying to do with the LRA as kind of a 1206, 1208 train and equip type of thing, that we're assisting them, which I would say, from your view, how do you see that program, the train and equip program?
Well, we're absolutely doing an advise assist program, and we are providing training and equipment. The Defense Department is not the only one providing training. There are international organizations as well that are providing equipment to the UPDF and others. But our role clearly in this construct is limited to advise and assist. Our troops are not authorized or empowered to make decisions that would put them in conflict with the LRA. In fact, the sort of rules of the road are advise and assist if you have a situation where you are asked to, or you have an opportunity to participate in that activity, that there's an expectation of contact with the force at all. They have to stop, and at that point there would have to be a policy discussion back in Washington about whether that was an appropriate step or not. We are not up against that right now. The advise and assist since October has progressed in a manner that was envisioned. We've got some folks up forward, as you know, Senator, and we are increasing the effectiveness of these forces in their mobile search operations and integrating their command and control, improving their communications between the different nations that are involved. Those are all the objectives we set out to do, and we think we're relatively on track with what we've...
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Really what I was getting at, though, is just from your perspective, the three of you, the train and equip program, the merits of that program. Do you have any comments to make on that?
Senator, I think, thank you for the question. I think they're fundamental for our ability to do our job around the world. And increasingly, as our mission shift away from Iraq and Afghanistan, these authorities are absolutely essential for us to conduct our, and this is a classic special operations FID mission, as Garry was laying out to you. And so we look forward to working with the committee to extend those authorities and continue to use them effectively.
and the Global Security Contingency Fund, which is kind of our thing. Would you have any comments to make on that?
Yes, Senator. Again, we are very supportive of this fund. We're working very closely with the State Department now to move forward our proposals, and we see these again as fundamental to our being able to do these jobs in this new environment.
Good. Mr. Reid, it's been probably, what, 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. Is anything that we need to meet on since that time? Any updates? Not here, obviously.
Not here,
Okay,
but again, I would just summarize that from all the expectations that were built in the front end of this, I would characterize this as being as on track as we could have imagined. Good. Based on the milestones and objectives we laid out.
Good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And